This is the second video for Chapter 10, Section 2, solving quadratic equations. The first video looked at doing it graphically by drawing graphs. Today I'm going to look at factorising it. We'll start with a bit of background and look at expanding a bracket. And remember that you have to multiply everything inside the bracket by what's outside it. So I have 2 times x, which gives me that 2x. And 2 times 3, which gives me the 6. In this one, I've got 2 times 3x, which gives me 6x. And I've also got 2 times minus 8, which is minus 16. Be important you keep your eye on those signs. I'd like you to think about the bottom one. 3x times 2x will give me 6x squared, because 3 times 2 is 6, x times x is x squared. And then 3x times 3 gives me 9x. So this one was 6x squared plus 9x. Hopefully you think about this one. First one's done for you. 2x times 4 gives me 8x. Then 2x times minus 3x gives me minus 6x squared. Now I'm going to have a look at doing double brackets, multiplying those out, because that is the absolute opposite of factorising that we'll need for quadratics. So remember, everything in this bracket has got to multiply by everything in this bracket. So I'll have x times x to give me x squared. I'll have x times 3 to give me 3x. And then I'll have this one times the x, which gives me x. And then this 1 times 3 to give me 3. Now these two here will add up together to give me 4x. That 4 has come from by doing that, add that. So I've done 1 and 3 gives me 4. That's the method you'll need to use for factorising. The number on the end, 3, has come by doing this times this. 1 times 3 gave me that. The x squared is because we have the x times x at the front. So if we look at this one, we think about the same sort of idea. X times x, that's where I get my x squared from. X times 5 will give me 5x. Now it's a little bit different because I've got a negative here. Minus 3 times x will give me minus 3x. Add the x in there. And I've got minus 3 times 5 gives me minus 15. So when I'm looking at this, and I need to factorise it, which will actually take it back to there, this negative here gives me an idea that I'm going to have a negative and a positive in my bracket. It also reminds me that I'm doing 5 take away 3, not 5 add 3, so I get 2x rather than 8x. That helps me to do the factorisation when I'm thinking about the actual signs within the brackets.
If you expand that first bracket, x plus 1 times x plus 3, in total you get 4x on that bottom line, and that's come from 1 times x and 3 times x, which you can see on the top line. And the number on the end has come from the 1 times 3. So when you're factorising, you're using the opposite idea. If we go down to the next one where we've got x plus 3 and x minus 2, so look at the final solution for expanding that. We've got a 1x and a minus 6. That tells me that the two numbers in the brackets multiply to give me minus 6 and add up to give me plus 1. That 1x is a plus 1x. Factors of minus 6, to get a negative number, one must be positive, one must be negative. And they could be 1 and 6 or 3 and 2. So you then have to just try out different combinations. If I did minus 1, add 6, would that give me the 1x in the middle? No. If I did minus 6 and plus 1, that wouldn't work. If I tried minus 3 and plus 2, that would give me minus 1, so that doesn't work. So the answer must be the minus 2 plus 3. So there we get what it factorises to, x plus 3, x minus 2. The clue in that one is you've got a positive and a negative, which give you the -6, and when you've got the two factors, there's a difference of 1 between them to give you the 1x. The bigger one is going to be the positive one because it's a plus x. So I'll just leave you to have a look at the other ones at the bottom. I think that third one never quite finished off, so apologies for that. But below that you can see there's one where there's a 2x. That gets a little bit more tricky, but I will show you an example of that. As I remember now, I think that one that isn't finished off was one I sort of talked through in class and got the class to work out. So you lot work that out to expand it, just to go through the mechanism, seeing how when you expand something, it is the opposite of factorising. So these are some questions from the book, and I'm going to do a few as an example for you. So we'll be going over to me doing a bit of writing in a minute. I'm going to do question A, H, M and O. Remember, through this video you can take some print screens if you want to remember particular things, or you can have your textbook with you or be using Caboodle just through the questions and refer back to them. But we'll move on to do a bit of writing and working through a few of these. Starting off with question A, x squared plus 5x plus 6. Similar to an example I've just done, but this time we've got plus 6, so it's two positives being times together, and those two numbers multiply to 6 and add up to give you 5. So similar to that one we had for the example, it's going to be x plus 2 and x plus 3, because 2 times 3 gives me 6, 2x, 3x, they add up to give you the 5x. Next one, this time we've got a negative number, so one's going to be positive and one's going to be negative for those numbers at the end of the brackets. So we could start by filling that in, just to help you do a bit of thinking. One's going to be positive, one's going to be negative. Two numbers that multiply to give you 12, but the difference, because one's positive and one's negative, the difference between them is 1. So from my decent ability with multiplication tables, I know it's 4 and 3, because 4 times 3 gives you 12. It's going to be plus 4, because this has got to be bigger than the minus 3, because I'll get minus 3x from that and plus 4x from that. So in total I've got that 1x. M's got a few more negatives in it, so it's minus 2x, so this means this time the bigger number is going to be the negative one, and it's minus 15. So again, I like to start off by putting my pluses and minuses in, and I've got to think about two numbers that multiply together to give me 15, and the difference between them is going to be 2. Well, 3 and 5 work for that, and this time I want the bigger number, 5, to be negative, the smaller one, 3, to be positive, because this will give me minus 5x, this will give me plus 3x, so in total I will have the minus 2x. This is factorising it. If you're asked to solve the equation, then we can solve it from this. For this to be true, for this bracket times this bracket to be 0, either this could be 0 or this could be 0. For this one to be 0, x would have to be equal to plus 5. Opposite of that, plus 5 take away 5 would give me 0. 0 times anything there will give me the answer 0. On the other hand, this could be 0, so x would be minus 3, because minus 3 plus 3 gives me 0. 0 times whatever that is will give me that answer 0. This time you've got 0 to start with, but it makes no difference whatsoever, same technique. I'm going to have x in both of them. One's going to be positive, one's going to be negative, because I've got to get a negative 16. And they need to multiply to make 16, and then add up, or in fact the difference between them is going to be minus 6. 4 and 4 make 16, but there's not a difference between them of 6. So the other two factors of 16 are 1 and 16, difference between them is not 6, 8 and 2. difference between those is 6. I want the bigger one to be the negative, because that will give me a minus 6. This would give me 2x, that gives me minus 8x, so in total I've got that minus 6x. So the solution to the equation is x is equal to minus 2, because that would make that bracket 0, and therefore the answer 0. And the other answer is x equals 8, because 8 take away 8 would be 0. 0 times whatever that is gives me that solution there. These ones require a little bit more fiddling around first of all. So I haven't got it equal to 0, so I need to swap it around to actually make it equal to 0. I'm going to want positive x squared, so I'm going to take the minus over to there, so it'll become a plus. So in total then I will have 2x squared plus 21 minus 11 equal to 0. Now I can factorise it in the same way, but this time I'm going to have 2x at the start of one and x at the start of the other. We can now do it in a similar way. They're going to need to multiply together to give me minus 11. But remember, one of them is going to be doubled, so that's going to be careful when you have to do a bit of trial and error. Fortunately in this one, minus 11, that's prime, so the only factors of that are 1 and 11. So which one of those is going to be positive, which one's going to be negative? Well, you want plus 21, so the 11 has got to be the positive one, and I'm going to get to 21, so I'm going to need that 11 to multiply by the 2 to give me 22x, and then I'm going to have the minus 1 there because that will take away 1x, and in total I'll have 22x take away 1x, that gives me the 21x in the middle. Excuse me, should have been an x there all the time. This one I have written out correctly, don't worry. So again, I don't like that negative x, so I'm going to actually move them both over to that side. So I'm going to leave my 0 here. I'm going to take that minus x over there to give me plus x squared. And then I've got minus 10x, because that's moved from there across to there. That 21 has remained positive. So I've got that there. Now, 21. Think about factors of 21. I would say 3 and 7, because 3 and 7 will both give me, when I add them up, 10. Now this is an unusual one that I put in here, because that's a negative and that's a positive. To make that happen, the other way I can get a negative number is to have two negatives, because when I do two negatives multiplied by each other, I actually get that positive. So it's an unusual one. It's minus 3 and x minus 7. Minus 7 times minus 3 will give me plus 21, but this will give me minus 3x, and this will give me minus 7x, which in total will give me that minus 10x. This is a similar idea, but a bit simpler numbers. Again, I've got a positive here, so you might think they're both positive, the two numbers in the brackets, but I've got a negative in the middle. So this is another example where I've actually got two negatives. It's actually minus 2 and minus 3. Because minus 2 times minus 3, negative times a negative, gives me a positive 6, and minus 2x and also minus 3x gives me a total of that minus 5x. Again, going just back to remember, this was also used to find solutions. I think the first one's the most interesting, because to make this one 0, it's not a case of x being equal to 1, x is actually equal to a half, because 2 lots of a half is 1, 1 take away 1 gives me a 0 for that bracket. But this one is only 1x, so for this one x is going to be equal to minus 11, because minus 11 plus 11 gives me 0, and this 0 times anything there gives me the 0 I want at the other end. Okay, that's a snapshot of factorising. Hopefully that will help you to do those Hegarty math tasks you're working on. Any problems, please email me.